Okay, hello friends. So it's so pleasure today for me because we have Tim Poot with us. He's the youngest guest at our channel so far. Friends, he is a student and intern at KPMG. And it's very interesting story how we two met. So we met on LinkedIn. Tim sent me a couple of surveys to fill. I was just skeptical about those things. I was thinking he's just some random marketing guy, who's just sending different surveys. But then I checked his profile, and then I found him that he's a student and he's genuinely working towards agility. This is one of the subject I think we will definitely going to learn a lot about that in upcoming session. So Tim, first of all, thank you for giving your time, and let's talk about agile in this session. I was really hopeful, and I've not met someone like you honestly with this age. You are just a student, still in a university, and you have I have already seen you a couple of past webinar where you're talking about skill agile and all. So believe me, Tim, all these topics are pretty complex, which I know, agile transformation and all. And you are already doing it with this age, so hats off to you, Tim.
Thank you very much. You're too kind.
Okay, so Tim, why don't you tell us about yourself? What basically you are? What is your background? What you are doing right now in the Leiden University? People who are not familiar about this, Leiden University is one of the uh, top-rated universities based in Netherlands. So yeah, he's a student over there, Tim. And yeah, Tim, over to you. We are eager to hearing from you, like what you are doing over there.
Sure, I'm equally eager to tell you as well. So yeah, I'm Tim. I'm a student at Leiden University, like you said, where I got my bachelor's degree in just computer science. So I did a 3 years bachelor's degree there to get that. And then I took a gap year to figure out what kind of master's program I wanted to do. And now I'm doing a master program called ICT in Business and the Public Sector, which kind of has two tracks. It has this business track and a public sector track. And specifically, I'm doing the business track, which consists of courses which mostly focus on the intersection between IT and business. So you get courses like process modeling, you get a little bit of business intelligence, you get some operations management through technology as well. So yeah, it really focuses on all of these kind of subjects where IT meets business.
Okay, thanks, Tim, for that. And how's your experience as an intern at KPMG? What basically you are doing over there?
Yeah, I can definitely tell you a little bit about that. My experience so far has been nothing but positive. I've been doing research there now for a year, and they have it set up in such a way that I have a specific person which I talk to every week. So this is kind of my mentor within KPMG. And we talk every week, which provides this really low barrier to entry point to say, I need some help with this or that. And outside of this, this weekly talk, I also can just send her a message on WhatsApp via cell phone, or just on Teams, which is perfect for me because I'm somebody that likes a lot of freedom in their work. But also when I run into a problem, of course, I need some help every now and then. And for that, KPMG is perfect. There were also some points where I wanted to incorporate some practitioner feedback in my research, because of course you're reading all of these papers by academics, but sometimes it kind of feels like these academics are in their whole own world. So it's kind of good to ground yourself and think about what our practitioners thinking. And every time I sent an email to somebody at KPMG, they were very helpful, very willing to sit down with me, have a talk. And I think really through their feedback, I've been able to integrate into my thesis. I think I've really actually delivered a better research product at the end. So yeah, I'm very positive about KPMG as an intern.
Okay, thanks, team, for that. Okay, so tell us about your this thesis on scale agility. What basically you are doing, and how far you are with those thesis so far.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, this is a complex topic. When I started out, I didn't think it would be this complex, but well, it's been a year. I'm still not entirely done, so I think it is a little bit more complex than I initially thought. But it was fun to learn about this whole kind of field. What I'm specifically looking at is the relation between um, agile maturity, so transformation maturity, and organizational performance. That kind of consists of two components. You have this agile maturity that you need to measure. And there are several ways that you can do that. The easiest way is, of course, to just like take the beginning point as a year and then see like, oh, you have been doing this transformation for 3 years, so you're 3 years mature. But this is, of course, not entirely fair because some transformations move faster than others because of a whole wide reasons like hierarchy, structure, all kind of different things. There's also various maturity models in academia. And one such model that I'm using, created by Marit Lanti, who also did a lot of research at Nokia and Ericsson about their agile transformations. They just kind of makes this distinction between several stages of maturity. And based on the practices, agile practices that you have implemented, you can say, oh, I'm at this stage of maturity, or I'm at this stage of maturity. So that's kind of how I've been measuring the agile maturity. And for the framework, what I did is kind of looked at all of the different metrics that have already been used in literature, which I know is a real problem. I've talked to practitioners, and all of them want to be able to measure their transformation more, but they're not really able to because they don't know where to start. So I've kind of made this huge collection of metrics, and then I incorporated them into a survey, which is why I messaged you initially on LinkedIn. And that is how I'm measuring this organizational performance. And then I'm kind of looking at the correlation between these two to see if there is a correlation, and to see that if you are moving along your transformation, do you actually experience more benefits in the long end? And then where I'm at with that right now is I'm mostly finishing up the research. We are doing a couple more events to kind of boost the respondents counts, because right now I'm sitting at somewhere around 60. And ideally we would kind of move near the 100 to kind of have more reliable results. But yeah, we are seeing the initial patterns, and there's some very interesting dating there, definitely. So yeah, we're excited to kind of be able to wrap it up and say, hey, this is all the stuff that we found.
Okay, hey, thanks, team, for that explaining about your thesis. Okay, so why is it that agile way of working has your interest? If you want to share your thought on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think what's interesting for me, at least when I talk to other people in this field, is that for me, I was kind of taught about this agile working from my bachelor's degree. So during a software development course I had then, we had basically an agile way of working where every week you had to meet with a client, where basically your professor pretended to be a client, and then you had to say like, oh, this was my sprint, this is the minimal viable product that I have right now. So you learn it from this very this relatively young age. So when you come from this perspective, it's kind of hard to even imagine a waterfall way of working. So stuff like just talk to your client regularly, that seems like such a given. And using such a Kanban board or doing Scrum to kind of have these transparencies open, it seems obvious for me. And then looking back at waterfall, it kind of seems like a step back for me as a person as well, but also kind of like in a more general sense, because I really think Agile's ways of working, and especially this transparency that Agile allows for, which I think it's also possible in waterfall, but less so, is that it allows you to kind of more so be your own agent in a sense. So because you know what everything is going on in your team, it is more easy for you to kind of say like, oh, this is maybe the direction that I want to be moving in. Say you're are in a full stack team and you're doing like front end and back end in one team, you might be able like, oh, I see all of these fun stuff that are happening on the front end. I'm currently a back end developer. Maybe I should step up and say like, oh, I maybe want to start moving towards this other direction. What are the trainings that I have to do in that regard? So I think this also kind of provides more freedom in that regard, which I think for me is one of the main reasons that Agile is so interesting, because it kind of provides this variety in a way.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tim, for that. And if may I ask you, like, for you, what is Agile, or as a scholar, how you find Agile?
Yeah, that's a big question. Something that I've also seen a lot of people try to answer in literature. I don't think there's one good answer. And I think there's a lot of literature about academic literature about the challenges of any success factors of agile transformations. And when you look at these, I think the recurring patterns are that the biggest challenge is just getting everybody on board, having this cultural change. I think the example that somebody talks a lot about in the Netherlands is ING. ING is this big bank, I think in other countries as well, and a little bit less than 10 years ago, they did this huge agile transformation where essentially they went from a banking company to really an IT company, which still mostly, of course, the main product is the bank, but they are really focused on IT now. And they did that in such a way that their entire culture shifted. It was not necessarily a good thing for everybody, because a lot of jobs got lost in the process. But I think it is one of, especially in the short term, it's one of the most successful like culture changes, which is a really hard thing to do in a short period of time. So I think as a scholar, when I look at what is agile for me, or what maybe should agile be for me, is really not necessarily doing Scrum or doing Kanban or doing these product increments in SAFe, but it is whatever it really takes to establish the culture of transparency, establish this culture of iterative and minimal viable product thinking. And I think you really, as an organization, need to think about what are the tools that are going to get me there. And of course, that can be Scrum, can be SAFe, and all of its constituents. But I think the most important part that you should focus on is how do I move from this kind of waterfall way of thinking, where we set a point in the future, and for maybe 1 year, 5 years, very far into the future, to a way of thinking where you're like, oh, I'll try to move here, and if it doesn't work out, we can always steer later to kind of still get our objective. And I think that is really what agile should be, or at least as of course, somebody with very little practitioner experience, so might be a little bit wishful thinking. I think that is how it should be.
Thanks, Tim, for that. Okay, now this one is a little tricky, but I am sure this is your expertise, which is you are doing. So how do you measure your organization large-scale agile transformation? We talks about transformation a lot, but how we set the baseline, you know?
Yeah, no, there's
and if you can also tell us like how you compare, I mean, ideally we should not compare, but then if there any way, if you have find it out that how does your transformation compare to other team, is it, or other organization, or with other portfolio? Is it you have done something similar in the past?
Yeah, definitely. I have, based on previously obtained results from research, we have given workshops about this. And what we see is that it's really, like you said, it's really hard to make these comparisons, because in the first place, it's also really hard to even start measuring. People are really overwhelmed by all of the different things that you can measure. And often for you to be able to measure various things, you need to have this infrastructure in place, which adds another layer of complexity. How can you start measuring? How can you get a baseline for measuring your organization? There's actually some interesting literature on that. A lot of people, generally speaking, will use some kind of backlog tool, be it Azure DevOps or just Microsoft Azure, or be it Jira. Often these kind of tools will be in place. And a while ago, there was some research that actually suggested that just with these backlog tools, and I think there will be more about this in the future, just with these backlog tools, you can already make some very basic measurements, which can just get you started. Because of course, it's not a solution for everybody. But from these basic measurements, you can kind of see what are the results, and what are areas that we want to move towards. We want to measure these more, or these are areas that are performing fine. Maybe we don't need to measure them more. And these are just very simple measurements, like just seeing when something is created in Jira, and then seeing how long it takes from creation to completion. Something very simple like this is an example that you can do, which already kind of gives you a lead time per feature view of what is going on there. You can look how often are you committing. That's another metric that you can be looking at. And also just like kind of involving your customer, which is not necessarily a backlog tool thing, but just talk to your customer as much as possible and see how satisfied are they. What are the factors underlying there. These are very simple things, which again are not end all be all solutions. But from there you can get those results and just kind of get together and see like, okay, this is how we're doing in these parts. What does that mean? How can we move forward? And I think that's a really good way to start off. Then you get to the question, how can you compare between different transformations? That's even more difficult because first of all, there's this kind of not knowing what they are and they aren't doing. And as well, like you said, you might not even want to compare because while you're doing a top-down transformation, they may be doing a bottom-up transformation. And even if you want to compare, it might be a case, because one of the results that we see in our research is that a lot of people don't even measure their transformation at all. That's a fair amount of people, probably because they cannot. And at that point, you should ask yourself, should I really want to compare with somebody who might not even be measuring their transformation? They might be doing stuff based on whatever their internal motivation is. So in that case, I would say maybe don't do it. And if you really do want to do it, ask yourself why you want to do it. And if you know why you want to do it, maybe there's something that a competitor might be performing better in a certain way. Then you can maybe make it more concise. Okay, like these are the specific discrepancies between the two transformations. I should really try and define what constitutes that discrepancy, and then kind of move further from there. Like, oh, how can I get this information? How can I see maybe they have better test-driven development? Maybe they have better portfolio backlog tooling. Yeah, whatever the underlying reason might be.
Okay, thank you, Tim, for that. And what do you think the role of any external coach can play in an agile transformation?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting question, because as I've talked to people, different practitioners, I think a criticism that I hear a lot about agile coaches is that often they'll enter an organization and they'll get started on an agile transformations, and they'll kind of get you into this first chaotic phase of a transformation where people are being moved from team to team, and there's all cultural changes going on. There's all of these new tools that nobody knows what to do. And then after 6 months, their contract ends and they leave behind this kind of mess that nobody knows how to fix. And I think that's a criticism that I hear a lot. And I think that there are two kind of parts to that. And there's definitely a part to play there for the agile coach, but I think there's also a part to play for organizations themselves, because what I think is happening a lot right now is that a lot of organizations are looking at their competitor, or maybe not even the competitor, but just like the general organizational landscape that they operate in. And they see all of these people are undergoing agile transformations, and they start thinking, maybe I should be doing that. And they get on board an agile coach, and they're like, "Oh, can you do it?" And then they maybe start like, "Yeah, we can, but this isn't necessarily. You don't necessarily know why you want to do this." And at that point, you might even not need an agile coach. You need something before that, because if you're undergoing an agile transformation, before even involving an agile coach, you should maybe think about what do I really, which are the first steps that I want to take when I start this transformation? What departments should undergo this transformation first? What do I need to do it bottom up, top and down? Those considerations should really be had before undergoing really a transformation and involving an agile coach. And at that point, you can kind of provide the internal knowledge, because that's really what it is. Like, oh, these departments are good candidates for transformation. And at that point, a coach, an agile coach, can really start their work from a whole different position. And at the same time, I think it is the job of an agile coach to educate the people inside an organization to be able to be self-sustaining after an agile coach leaves. And there are also situations where an organization might want to have an agile coach there for 3 years or maybe even more if it's a really complicated situation. But I think if an agile coach knows that he's going to be there for 6 months, maybe a year, you should really think about, how can I educate my surroundings of this organization in such a way that when I leave, people know what to do. So maybe give them training on the specific backlog tooling that you introduce there, provide safe trainings to specific team members there that might want to pick up roles. It doesn't have to be a new agile coach when you leave, but maybe what you were doing can be divided into different parts that can be picked up by many people. And then when you leave, the transformation will be more self-sustaining. It will be leaving behind an organization that can really save itself in the rest of its organization.
True, Tim. I also agree with you, whatever you said. So that's a great point, I think. Yeah, I've seen that that's happening a lot. Okay, so this next one is about what are some different books which you have read on Agile, or which you are reading right now on Agile or transformation? Would you like to share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I decided to pick one book and two pieces of academic literature, kind of papers. And I'll start off with the book. The book is called Organizational Behavior by Stephen Robbins and Timothy George. And it is not necessarily about Agile in and of itself, but it is really about how, well, organizational behavior, as the title says. So it talks about how do people in an organization act based on what. So it really gives you the tools to, when maybe as an agile coach you run into resistance from maybe some senior manager that has been doing their work for 20 years in that way now. Maybe this book gives you the tools to sit with that person and look, like, why are you so resistant to change? How can we facilitate this transformation in such a way that maybe you also have a place that you also feel comfortable? And of course, that's not a guarantee that it will save that person necessarily, but it will definitely give you more insight about how they are thinking and why they might be more resistant to this change. Then one of the papers that I also decided to share with you is this quantitatively measuring a large-scale agile transformation by Marta Ojweska. And this is one of those papers that uses backlog tooling to show that large-scale agile transformations do, or at least they can work. And I picked this one because it kind of it's kind of counterpart to the next paper that I picked. Because what this one does is it chose one organization. It picked certain metrics. It defined certain metrics to measure over a very long period of time. And then it looked at the impact of the metrics. And then it saw all sorts of improvements across all metrics. So, for example, lead time per feature increased, the amount of commit, the number of commits were increasing, the time between commits were increasing, quality was also increasing. So they were able to detect bugs earlier and also handle them in a more efficient manner. So you see all of these facets improving over time in a single organization. But then, of course, you can say, well, this is just one organization. It might be that it works for this organization, but it might not work for the majority of organizations. And that's why I picked the next piece of academic literature, which is called The Impact of Agile Transformations on Organizational Performance, a survey of teams, programs, and portfolios by Crystal Statina and various other authors. And this piece of research does the exact opposite. So instead of picking one company and then making a measurement over a long period of time, it makes one measurement of time in time, and it picks a lot of companies. So you have 172 respondents spread over all of these different companies, spread over all over the world. Although it should be noted that most of them are in Europe. And it also looks not necessarily the same metrics, because of course it is done through a survey. So you cannot exactly take the same metrics as you are doing in this kind of a real context with a backlog data set. But it looks at the same kind of dimension. So it also asks about effectiveness of development. It asks about the quality of the product. It asks about how is your workflow doing? So is your work becoming more organized or more planned? And here again, you see an overall increase when organizations undergo a large-scale agile transformations. Furthermore, this paper also did this correlation between agile maturity and these impact metrics, and they found various metrics, various correlations between the two. So you really see here as well that as you progress along this maturity of your transformations, you can expect to get more and more benefits from it.
Tim, all these papers are available online. Would you like to share their links? Maybe I will add it in the description later on so people can always watch them.
Yeah, I will definitely. I will at least send you the titles. And I think some of them are online and some of them are not, or they are online but behind a paywall, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay. No issues. Okay. So, and Tim, if let's say somebody is interested in your research, how they can connect with you, or how they can stay up to date on the results of whatever you are doing? Are they available online, or you are publishing them time to time, or what's?
Yeah, I can also tell you a little bit about that. So right now we're finishing up the survey. That means that we are still collecting some respondents. If you want to participate in the research, you can do so still. And if you participate in the research at the very end of the survey, you have the ability to leave behind your email. And if you leave behind your email, as soon as we close the survey, we will send you a message with all of the results by then, as well as a message later on with a more in-depth analysis, because of course there's this like initial results, and then maybe as we sit on these results, then maybe we feel like, oh, this is interesting, this is also interesting. So if you want results in that manner, you should participate in the research. Feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn on that. You can also look up my LinkedIn profile, and one of my messages is probably about the survey. And maybe in time, hopefully, we will be able to publish these results. But of course, that's a lot of ifs, because then an academic journal also has to be find the results as interesting as I find them, which I definitely hope is the case. But no guarantee on that yet.
Yeah, share that link with me also. I will put it here also. Maybe if someone is going to watch this session, they can also participate. Yeah,
definitely, we'll do that.
okay. Okay, Tim, I think we are done for today, and it's very interesting conversation with you, Tim. And I really hope all the best. Whatever you are doing is a great work which you are doing, and all the best for your future, Tim.
Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun. I want to thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you.